Welcome to the NaturaTrail at the Glauberg. We start in the parking lot of the Keltenwelt Museum. During my arrival, a cycling event was still underway, and I tried to get away from this loud and crowded place as quickly as possible. We'll save the Glauberg as a highlight at the end of the hike. So we first went downhill through a village. Most of the hike is spent in the Nidderau Nature Reserve, a great spot to observe birds. As soon as I left the village, an indescribable calm set in. I was practically alone with nature. This hike took place in early spring, and I was amazed at how warm and sunny it already was. In the flats surrounding it, the Glauberg is very visible. No wonder the Celts used this prominent location for their settlement. At Effolderbach, I took a small detour to a birdwatching hut. Unfortunately, I didn't bring my big camera with the zoom lens that day. If I had researched the tour better beforehand, this wouldn't have happened. With a good zoom, you could probably sit in this hut for hours and get closer to the birds. Upon reaching the core area of the reserve, it was bustling from all sides. I've never seen so many storks in one place in my whole life. Surprisingly, for an officially named NaturaTrail, there was a lot of asphalt on this route. Towards the end of the tour, I took another detour over the Glauberg plateau. The signposted official route goes around the Glauberg at half height, saving some incline. On the top of the plateau there's a small Celtic-themed circular trail, which also includes the remnants of a medieval castle complex. There is also a viewpoint with a beautiful view of the Nidderau. This is exactly where I had been earlier. Can you see the church tower of Effolterbach in the distance? At the perfect time, I reached the burial mound of the Glauberg in the wonderful silence of the evening light, a magical moment that invited me to linger and enjoy the unique atmosphere beyond the camera. There was no trace of the hustle and bustle and noise of the afternoon. So, dear viewers, now is the moment in the video where I present to you some interesting facts about the place I visited in the video. It has become a beloved tradition of mine to do a bit of research and post-production, discover many interesting things myself and share a few of them with you. Some of them, like the legend of the Devil's Staircase on the West Highland Way, the legend of the giant mills or Goethe's story in Wetzlar, almost write themselves. For the Celts, however, it took longer this time until inspiration hit me. This was partly because I knew little to nothing about the real historical Celts, so I didn't have a rough idea of what I was actually looking for in my research. Also, the Celts were an extremely diverse tribe-based people, spread over a large geographical and temporal range, so a few short sentences summarizing the Celts are really hard to find. The Celts, as I said, didn't really exist. Research in this area is more difficult because there are no written remains of the Celts, so we don't know how they thought of themselves or how they referred to themselves. Celts or Gauls are words from Greek and Latin, with which the Greeks and Romans labeled their enemies at the time. Now, let's finally get to the point. Here's what I found. The period that probably everyone has in mind when thinking of the Celts is the so-called Latin period between 480 and 15 BC. From this period comes the typical Celtic ornamental jewelry. The famous French comic of Asterix and Obelix refers to this time. Interestingly, the comic is said to be relatively historically accurate. At least that's what I heard in a podcast interview with an archaeologist. By the way, I'll put some interesting links in the video description. If you want to learn more about the Celts, you'll find it there. Before the Latin period came the Hallstatt period. During this time, the transition from the Bronze Age to the Iron Age took place. The Hallstatt period is named after the Austrian town of Hallstatt, today a popular tourist destination, where salt was mined at the time. With this salt, food could finally be made more preservable, which led to a larger radius of movement and more trade and exchange among the tribes. Even before the Hallstatt period, and thus fully in the Bronze Age, there was the Urnfield culture, which was named after their then common burial practices. But where does the Glauberg fit into this timeline? The Glauberg plateau, over which we've just walked, was first fortified in the 10th to 9th century BC, during the Urnfield culture period. In the 5th century BC, a monumental renewal of the facilities followed, including the erection of the burial mound we are about to visit together. The burial mound was archaeologically rediscovered in 1996, and the sensational discovery of the Celtic prince, a large sandstone statue, was made. The investigations are far from complete. Among other things, it is still unclear what the 16 poles served for that were also found during excavations. Well, enough talking. Let's finally explore the burial mound. Thank you so much for hiking with me today. I hope I will see you soon for some more exploration of my home country, Germany.